Hey there everyone, it's Evil the Monkey here to bring you another build. This one's for Kingsguard Lance Serena build. If you guys don't know what Kingsguard Lance does, I'm going to go ahead and throw up its passive there on the screen so you guys can go ahead and pause and read it if you need to. I've been wanting to do this build forever. I actually figured out this interaction I think the second day after Serena had released into the game. But because Kingsguard Lance used to be a really bad weapon, it only did 10%. It wasn't that good of a build, but now they buffed it to 40% for each lance, which makes it an insane gun now. It's so good at wave clear. If you guys don't know this interaction, Kingsguard Lance ultimate ability, every time you throw the lance into the ground, it actually copies your active buffs. And if you don't know, Serena's fourth ability counts as a buff. So that's right, Kingsguard Lance, each lance individually copies Serena's fourth ability, meaning you get a whole bunch of AoE and enhanced damage, and each laser shot out of it uses Serena's fourth ability, which causes crazy AoE and crazy damage, as you guys saw in the, example there in the practice tool. This makes this gun so good at AoE clearing. I've had so much fun making this build finally. Now, this build is also okay at boss killing, but this is mainly a wave clear slash general use gun. In fact, I think this one's actually best at VEP, Void Erosion Purge, because this can instant clear most rooms. And the other best part is if you have two elites in a group together, each laser activates Serena's fourth ability, meaning not only is it damaging each individually, but because Serena's fourth ability does AoE, each elite's actually AoEing the other one down by standing next to each other, which makes the wave clear even more insane when you think about that. This is why it's really, really good at VEP. Although you guys will see me run to a lot of walls in some of the gameplay parts when you're watching me play VEP. I think better Serena players could do VEP way faster than I can. I think it's one of the things the gun's best at. But that's enough about me yapping about the build. Let's go ahead and jump straight into the mod section to show you guys how to make this one. For the Kingsguard Lance mod section of this video, I went ahead and broke it up into two different sections. We have the general use one, which is going to cover dungeons, Sigma Sector, VEP, pretty much everything beyond killing bosses, which is the second section, Colossi / boss killing, which is when you just pretty much just go into arena and just fight the boss. I'm also trying out something new with the mod sections of this video, where we're going to have some gameplay at the bottom of the screen there, while I talk more about the mods, so you guys can see some more of the build in action, some more of the gameplay of it. So let me know what you guys think of that down below the video, as this is something new I'm testing out for build videos. So this is what your general use Kingsguard Lance mod loadout is going to look like. Now this is pretty much what you're going to use across all content except for Colossi / boss killing, but we'll get to that mod loadout here in a little bit. First though, let's take a look at why we're running these firearm attack mods right here. So rifling reinforcement you're going to use across pretty much all gun loadouts. That's just a very generic thing to run. Action reaction is pretty good because you only have to worry about the recoil up, but you can manually compensate for that. Plus, the lances you throw into the ground, which are the majority of your damage, are not affected by recoil at all. Now for charge amp, you may see that we're also running crit in the build. You may be wondering why we're not running more crit instead of running more firearm attack. Well, there's two reasons for this. Number one, Kingsguard Lance doesn't have a very high base crit, it's actually pretty low. So we don't really want to actually expand upon that. We'd rather expand upon the firearm attack. Two, the other reason is it's a special rounds gun, and special rounds guns mods typically don't have very good scaling. Next, we're running fire rate up. This is because the gun has a pretty good base fire rate. Also, this gun is a continuous fire gun compared to a single shot like a sniper rifle, so you do always want fire rate up on guns you're going to be continuously shooting. Now for the ultimate mods, you may be wondering why we're running these two in particular, and not something like Snowflake Conductor or Super Cooled Plasma Rounds, which work with buffs and debuffing the enemy. The reason is actually kind of particular to how Kingsguard's lances work. They only copy active buffs. So Snowflake Conductor is only active while you're shooting the enemy, thus it can't actually be copied by the lances. And Super Cooled Plasma isn't a buff, it's actually a debuff, and the Kingsguard lances can't actually trigger that. The main gun can, but the lances cannot. This is why you have to use Sweeping Squad, which gives Kingsguard Lance a active buff, For clearing out every enemy, I believe you get something like 10% per enemy you kill up to 3 stacks, which is, it's actually 10.6, so it's a little bit over 30%, well, a little bit over 31% additional firearm attack. And then multi-site, you actually want to use this one because Serena has a singular skill she spams, her first ability, giving her firearm attack stacks. Now, this adds up to, I believe, about 12%, but even though these aren't the highest values, they're the only ones that can really be used with Kingsguard Lance's unique ability. That's why we're running these two. Also, they work with the idea of wanting to clear mobs out and just continuously throwing out more lances. So these are pretty much the best two that you're going to be able to run. And once again, there are just no other ones that are really good. That's why we kind of have to use these ones. Next up is the chill mods. So if you guys don't know, Kingsguard Lance actually has a base chill attack, and you just kind of ramp it up. We're running chill enhancement because it's just your basic chill attack up, and running chill priority because you really don't care about the reload speed going up, because Serena can just use her third ability to dash and get her ammo instantly refilled. So you don't really care about the downside in this build. If you guys have never actually used beam weapon, you may have never heard of superconductivity charge. All this one does is increases the rate at which your gun charges up, so you can get to the max damage with your gun. This isn't the most important thing to run, it just kind of helps the main gun do more damage, but it's one of the more useful mods you can run to just slightly increase damage. Technically you could exchange this one out for another one, but there's no real mod that fits into the slot besides this one. Earlier I mentioned that we kind of go over why you're running crit in this build if Kingsguard Lance doesn't actually have the highest crit value. And if any of you have looked over the stats, you may be wondering why we don't run multi-hit instead. Well, the reason you don't run multi-hit is because Kingsguard Lance passive can't trigger multi-hit. Multi-hit has a very specific text in its description that says, unique passives of ultimate weapons cannot trigger multi-hit. So none of those lances can actually trigger it. I've tested this through multiple times. It does not change the DPS. It doesn't activate multi-hit. So instead, we have to go with crit, which is, the next best thing. And you just run better concentration because this just ups your crit damage slightly. The reason you don't run increased crit rate is because if you even include the crit rate mod, it only increases it by about 4%. And if you include both crit rate mods, it only increases it by about 8%. And that's not enough of a difference to actually justify running crit rate mods in the general use build when we can just run other stuff instead. Now, technically, you could exchange maybe superconductivity for more crit rate if you really want that, but I don't think it's worth it. And if they ever actually do release another elemental mod that we could throw in here, I would honestly remove the crit rate. It's really just kind of the best of the worst that we can add. It's the only thing left over, so we throw it in this build. Now, this isn't technically the best bossing gun out there. There are better ones, but I did go ahead and make a bossing build because this gun can actually kill bosses. It killed Molten Fortress in about 2 to 3 seconds, which isn't bad. But the only difference between this and your general use loadout is you're going to go ahead and exchange out Sweeping Squad, that ultimate mod, for better insight, just for a little bit extra crit rate. This is because you can't actually activate Sweeping Squad at all for this one, and there's nothing else to really better to throw in other than a little bit of crit rate. Kind of like how we talked about in the previous one, if we could swap crit rate out for other elemental mods, that would be best. But this is kind of just the best one that can slot in, still be used against bosses. Now, time for your weapon options. What you're going to want to run here is firearm attack up. And this is pretty standard. You're probably going to run that across every gun in existence. Firearm critical hit damage up. Once again, this is just because it's pretty much the best damage you can throw on there that's left over. Technically, if they ever release anything else that could replace crit damage, we'll probably go and replace it. But once again, you don't want to... We're already talking about why you don't run multi-hit. The lances don't trigger it, so crit damage is the next best one. Then you're going to want to run bonus firearm attack against Legion of Darkness. I run this because of VEP, Void Erosion Purge, is against Legion of Darkness at stage 10, and their weakness is chill guns. So this actually just helps a lot with clearing that out, and it's going to be one of the best options you can run. You can technically exchange this out depending on what you want to use the gun for, or what enemy type. You could also exchange it out for Colossi damage up. It's really up to you. I did this because it makes it once again really good for VEP. And then of course chill attack up because this is a chill gun, and that's just pretty standard. Of course, after your weapon options, we gotta go into your weapon cores. Now for your 2 free slots, you're gonna want to run fire rate up. This is because the gun has an insanely high base fire rate. I think it's 645. So this is just gonna make the gun shoot really, really fast. And the lances actually copy the fire rate of the main gun. This is going to help it just shoot as fast as possible. All the lances are going to copy that, and they're going to shoot incredibly fast. So fast that when all the numbers are on the screen, it's really hard to tell the last time it got hit. There's like 100 numbers on the screen. Then you're going to want to run firearm attack up. Pretty standard. Chill attack up is your next one. This is because it's a chill gun. And interestingly enough, this is probably one of the few instances where the purple core is actually kind of nice, because in our weapon option we're running firearm attack up against Legion of Darkness, and this just kind of ramps it up a little bit more. So you do a whole bunch of more damage in VEP, and this will just help you hyper clear VEP. So these are the general use Serena mods that you're pretty much going to use for most of the time with this build. You know, for dungeons, Sigma Sector, what have you. And these are pretty standard ones, so we'll go ahead and jump right into it. So you're going to want to run every HP mod and every shield mod you possibly can, along with overwhelming HP. This is because this works with Serena's 4th ability, which scales off HP, and overwhelming HP turns shields into your HP. So basically just get as much HP as you can. Then we're going to want to run 3 cooldown mods. Now the reason Multi-Talented's a cooldown mod here is because Serena's 3rd ability, the dash, actually is dimension, which gives you more cooldown. This is basically going to work with our skill extension to actually give you permanent uptime on your 4th ability. Then we're going to want to go ahead and run shot focus as just, more firearm attack up since this is a gun build. And the one weird thing is skill extension. Now there's a point to skill extension here. I'm not sure if most builds run this, but for this one we're going to run it. And it's because, as we said, when you throw the lance from the gun into the ground, Kingsguard Lance unique ability, it copies the active buff, including the duration. Which means if you have a longer duration on your 4th ability, you're not going to have to throw down the lances as much. For Serena's bossing mod setup, this doesn't actually change much from the general one. Pretty much the only things that change here is we're going to take out Multi-Talented and duration extension for Walk on a Tightrope and Conditional Recharge. This is because of Walk on a Tightrope, if you get below 50%, you get a boost of firearm attack, and Conditional Recharge changes your skills to use health instead of mana. So this just allows you to get that buff really quickly and get as much firearm attack as possible. And like I said, everything else was, standard use across every Serena build possible. For your arcade tree for Serena, this is also pretty standard. Across the board, we're going to run as much HP as humanly possible, while also still going up to the top left there to get the mutant cell, and grabbing firearm attack along the way. And we also do hit that crit damage up, so that we can get that little extra damage just because it's on the way. And we also here, for the general use one, go ahead and get MP recovery rate up. This just helps with you staying in the air active without having to drop to grind any of the mana orbs. And for our mutant cell, we're going to run defense neutralization because this is pretty much the only one that works with guns. This is going to lower enemies' defense when you hit them with an ability at full HP. And if you have Serena's 4th ability active, it turns out all of her bullets then are counted as a skill. And then we'll all do skill damage and apply this debuff. For Serena's arcade boss killing tree, the only difference is we're no longer running the MP recovery instead of running the weak point and a little bit extra firearm damage. This is because you don't really need the extra MP recovery. So for your reactor and components, you're going to want to run a singular reactor and hunter component set. Now for that singular reactor, it actually doesn't matter which one you're running. All that really matters is the substats. So this is because like 99.99% of your damage is actually just coming from your 4th ability, which scales only off HP, and the gun's actual damage itself. So the skill power doesn't actually really matter here. Now it technically does improve the damage just slightly, so Serena's damage abilities are singular, and so you want to run singular. All that's really going to matter is your substats. Skill duration up, so that when you throw a lance into the ground, the Kingsguard Lance unique ability, as we discussed before, also copies the duration of the buff. This just makes the Kingsguard lances last a little bit longer with Serena's 4th ability. And then skill costs down so that you don't have to worry about mana issues as much. You do spam abilities a lot in this build. So this just helps so you can stay up in the air a little bit longer and not have to drop down to grab orbs. Now, Hunter set you're also running because, once again, mana issues. If you don't have anything to worry about mana issues, you could technically exchange out the set for another one, but all the substats are going to remain the same. And those substats are you really want to run MP recovery, so once again, you don't have to worry about skill cost, max HP for more damage, and same max shields because we're running Final Hand to give us shield conversion into max HP, so just slightly more damage. For the rest of your stat options, it doesn't really actually matter on your components, but for your component cores, what you're going to want to run is max HP for that maximum amount of damage on Serena's 4th ability. And then for your blue component cores, I'd recommend running at least 1 defense, maybe 2. But in all honesty, it's very dependent on those, on what you're facing, since most of those are resistances. So it kind of shifts based on what enemy you're fighting. Now for Serena's boss build, the Reactor doesn't change at all from the general use one, so you can just reference that one. But for the components that you're going to want to run Annihilation, this is for the buff when you drop low on HP, because once again we're going to be running Tightrope as well, and Conditional Recharge to drop us lower on HP. But pretty much all the substats remain the same, except that you can get rid of the Mana Recovery, because that doesn't matter. Everything else remains the same from the general use one, substat-wise and component core-wise. And that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for the Kingsguard Lance Serena build. Now let me know down below the video what you guys thought of the build. If you did like this build, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, we tried a couple new things with this video, with including more gameplay during the mod section. So I appreciate you guys letting me know down below the video what you guys think of that. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you guys want to be notified when new videos are coming out. With Season 3 about to launch, we're going to be coming out with a whole bunch of new videos, so look forward to that. And also, I stream every day on Twitch. I'll go ahead and throw up all the information on the screen there. And if you guys really did enjoy this video, don't forget that like button. It really does help the video a lot. And I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll catch y'all again later.